Zoom, on Facebook and YouTube. So wherever you are, please join in the discussions, okay? Today we have Alistair Kumi, one of our registered dietitians who's been having sessions with us. These days he tries to come on once every month to discuss a very important topic. A lot of us have been trying to lose weight, and we do know that a lot of our foods African and Caribbean meals can be very much carbohydrate dense, heavily carbohydrate dense. So Alistair has an exciting presentation going to talk to us about the African and Caribbean foods that are of, Alistair, what's the correct word to use here?
We can go with lower
carbs, African and Caribbean foods. So please, wherever you are, join in the discussion. Don't wait till the end. If you do have questions, drop them in the chat box. This is your opportunity to clarify all the myths and misinformation on this topic, that we have within the community. So don't wait till the session ends. Put in your concerns, your questions, everything in the chat box, and we will address these for you. Even if you're not on Zoom and you're on Facebook or YouTube, as I said, kindly join in the conversation because we want it to be very interactive. This is a very important topic. It affects so many health conditions: overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes. All of these are implicated. Carbohydrate plays a very big role in all of these health conditions. And that is why we are doing a whole session just on low carb foods that can be found in our community. So I'm going to stop here and ask Alistair to start, introduce himself briefly, and then take us through today's presentation.
Yes,
thank you.
Actually, just before I put up the sort of slide, yes. It's just a quick disclaimer to let you all know that this is going to be, I guess, more of like an interactive sort of session. If you guys do have questions, do not hesitate to drop things in the chat. I've organized my sort of desktop in such a way that I might be able to see some of the chat stuff that comes up. So feel free to ask things along the way. It is once again another hot topic in the African and Caribbean spheres, because our diets are very, very, very rich in nutrients, and carbohydrates is one of those things where it's a very difficult balance. Sometimes you could be eating too much. Sometimes for some people you may not be eating enough. I'm just gonna demystify what it means to sort of have carbohydrates in your diet. I know carbohydrates get such a bad rap, in the media and all over social media. But we're here to sort of demystify it so people have the evidence-based information. So without further ado, I'm going to try and share the slides. So what I'll do first is stop my video, because my slides have me in video. So let me just get those up. I'll be with you in just a second, and once I'm there, I'll get Hibbah to just signal so that to see if she can see me moving around.
Yes, I can.
Am I frozen in the slide?
You are frozen, but you're back now. Yeah.
I'm back. Very good. So today's topic is low carb African and Caribbean foods. I am a specialist dietitian. I'm actually a diabetes specialist dietitian, and I work in GP surgeries. And my name is Alistair Kumi. I've been working alongside Hibbah and Can, over the last few months, and even over the last year. And I'm hoping I'm a face that you get to see a little bit more as time goes on. But yes, I'll move on very quickly. What we're going to be speaking about today is what exactly a low carb diet is, how it can help you to lose weight. And then we're going to look at some low carb meal choices in the Caribbean diet. So looking at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there's a reason I'm bringing up that particular format, and I'll get to that. So don't worry. And then I'll also be looking at low carb meal choices in the African diet with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And for the benefits of this program, obviously I've just got this talk for 30 minutes. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to give you what a day's low carb diet could look like with your natural cultural foods that you all love and enjoy, and how to organize them. And for the lucky people that have joined today, what I'll do is I'll make sure that my email's put in the chat, because I actually have recipes of, for these low carb foods, and I'm going to sort of send them to people sort of free of charge, so that you can see how to eat these particular foods, in a very tasty, sort of evidence-based way that can help you to, sort of lose weight and keep control of your carbohydrate content. So, as you can see, I've been speaking about carbohydrates and low carb. So with low carb, it's just another name for a low carbohydrate diet. And for a diet to be low carb, that individual should be consuming about 50 to 130 grams of carbohydrate per day. So I'm just making a proviso that actually this is not a sustainable long-term diet. So being on a proper low carb diet, so a medically prescriptive low carb diet, it's not sustainable. It's just to help you to get into the swing of maybe needing to lose quite a bit of weight at a particular point in time, or to improve a certain health condition. So like people who may be struggling with respiratory conditions, who carry a bit too much weight, people who have type 2 diabetes and need to improve their blood sugar control. This low carb diet is that sort of fashion of low carb diet is a way of being able to help you to do that. I've written down below that a medium to standard carbohydrate diet is actually consuming about 130 to 180 grams of carbohydrate per day. So I know I'm sort of giving you all of these figures. I'm going to show you in real money, so with real food, what that actually looks like for you. And then yes, a higher carbohydrate diet is when you're eating, just over 180 grams of carbohydrate a day. So for reference, the average person in the UK, who has their breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and maybe some carbohydrate containing drinks, will consume anywhere between 210 to 250 grams of carbohydrate per day, which basically means that up to 1,000 calories is coming just from carbohydrates in their diet. 1,000 calories is coming from that amount of carbohydrate per day. So if some individual is having less than 180 grams of carbohydrate per day, it puts them in the lower carb territory, and actually that person would be having 720 calories worth of carbohydrate in their diet, and which has already put them in a 280 calorie deficit. So what that means for that individual is, if you're struggling to lose weight, being in that calorie deficit by even slightly reducing your carb intake, so going from 210 to 180, can put you in a calorie deficit and put you in a position where you could be losing maybe half a kilo to a kilo per week, because obviously your body was used to that extra consumption, which was excess carbohydrate, and now you're actually dialing it backwards. So obviously the comparison with this is looking at the old UK dietary reference values for how many calories an individual should be having in their diet. So, the media and the government before said that most people needed to be on a 2,000 calorie diet to sustain their weight, give them all the energy they needed for their processes. And, if that person was consuming about 250 grams of carbohydrate per day, that would provide, they'd be getting, sort of their, 50% of those requirements would be coming purely from carbohydrates. But now we know that actually people don't need that much. They don't need as much, because when the original estimates were made back in 1991, and bear in mind, these were estimates, they were based on total energy expenditure for the whole UK population. So I'm talking from people being 18 years old all the way to 75, whether you were a man or a woman. And what they did was they just made the assumption that men were going to need more because they have more muscle mass. So they said that men will need about 2,500 calories a day of total energy, and women would need about 2,000 calories. But we know that this is not the case, because when they made these requirements, it wasn't even specific to a particular population subgroup. So when you see those recommendations on cereal packets, food packaging, restaurant menus, it's based on the old estimates, and it's actually not based on the information we have now about what people are doing and what their actual requirements are. So what we know now is yes, those guidelines, they were non-specific and they were just based on the whole population, but a lot of things have happened. So in the last 30 years, every single one of us is a lot less physically active in our jobs than we were before. So even for a dietitian back in the day, we would be on the wards walking from one side of the hospital to the other to see our patients, and then writing a set of notes on one side of the hospital and goes to the other side of the hospital. So it was a lot of walking, but now with changes in our working patterns, I'm working in a GP surgery. I'd be lucky if in work I get more than 100 steps a day. I'm just stuck by the computer most of the time. So my requirements for energy are not the same, and my needs for carbohydrates is not the same as somebody who's maybe working on a construction site all day, doing a lot of heavy lifting, and those sorts of things, or even me being in my previous dietetic position where I was walking up and down the wards of a very, very big hospital. Another thing to take into account is there are a range of body compositions. So people have different body shapes and different metabolic factors. So a 65-year-old woman who has just come through menopause, her requirements are going to be for carbohydrates are going to be very, very different from a woman who's in her 20s, who's actually very, very physically active and has kept a trim figure. Both of those women are going to be using carbohydrates very, very, very differently. So how we use and absorb carbohydrates is very, very different. And advancements in medical technology have helped us to actually understand how it works for small groups of people. So I'm giving you an anecdotal example. So an averagely built woman who's non-menopausal, who is between 25 and 50 in years in age, who weighs about 65 kilograms, would need just under 1,500 calories to maintain her weight. And this would provide her complete energy needs for exercise and daily life. And if we were thinking of that 50% of those requirements coming from carbohydrates, it would mean that, yes, about 750 calories worth of energy would be coming from her carb intake, which translates to about 180 to 190 grams of carbohydrate if she's physically active. If she's not as physically active, or if she stops doing physical activity, what do you guys think is going to happen to this 65-kilo woman over time if she's eating exactly the same?
Can we get a few responses in the chat box, or do we want people to unmute themselves?
Yeah.
Alistair, do you want to repeat the question again, please?
Oh, yeah. So so the question is, this lady, she needs 180 grams of carbohydrate a day because she's very physically active, and that's going to maintain her weight of about 65 kilograms. If she stops doing that physical activity, what do you think is going to happen if she eats exactly the same?
Okay, so 3 responses.
Yeah.
Francis says she'll be overweight. Janet says she's going to gain weight. Ruth says she'll begin to gain some weight.
Indeed, indeed. So everyone is correct. And that particular lady, all she would need to do is just have an extra 100 calories a day. What 100 calories looks like in terms of carbohydrate is like having a 2-finger Kit Kat, or having 2 extra apples on top of what she should be having a day. And she could potentially gain about 4 kilograms in weight by the end of that year. After 10 years, so between 25 and 35, that 10 years where she's gaining 4 kilos every year turns into 40 kilos. So a woman who was 65 kilograms at 25 could easily become a 105 kilogram woman by 35. Very, very, very easily over a very short amount of time. So yes, that's why understanding what our bodies actually require and making those adjustments during different changes in life is very, 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 very key to living a healthy, sustainable life that keeps you free from disease and metabolic disorders. So it's also very important to make sure that we are also exercising regularly, because carbs are the most reliable energy source. If we've got them in our bodies, we have to use them. And if we're not using them, then they sit and turn into fat. So yes, so I'll just move on to the next slide. So yes, we're looking at sort of eating lower carb, eating a lower carb diet, and taking a look at what it means to sort of what the main rules for eating in this sort of diet is. So the number one thing I tell everyone who's following a low carb diet is to heavily restrict all liquid carbohydrates from your diet as much as you can, because how many of us would actually count that glass of orange juice or a milky latte as part of our daily carbohydrate intake? You know, very few of us. You know, we would think of it more as a drink. You know, for other people, you know, if you're sort of at a party or you've gone over to a friend's house, you know, I know one of the common sort of Caribbean staples at, like, you know, at a barbecue or a function is something like Guinness punch, where, you know, it's made up with condensed milk. There'll be a bit of Guinness in there. There may be a bit of sugar added and things like that as well, you know, and it ends up being a very, very, very high carbohydrate sort of drink, but you wouldn't realize that you've got a meal's worth of carbohydrates in just one drink. So I'm talking maybe over 80 grams of carbohydrate in just one drink. You wouldn't realize that. So we have to be very, very careful about liquid carbohydrates in our diet. And the main reason we have to be careful is because our bodies absorb liquid carbohydrates very efficiently. So our stomachs are only about, for food, they're only about maybe 65 to 70% efficient. So they absorb quite a bit, and then they tend to get rid of other things as waste, because they're not, you know, our body is not a bomb calorimeter. It's not going to just absorb every single calorie, but the more easier absorbed something is, the more calories you will take from it, and liquids do get picked up very quickly. The second thing, you know, we tell people to keep an eye on is double carb.
Alistair, can I just interrupt you there?
Sure.
Quick question on the liquids you spoke about. So someone says, is the super malt also a carbohydrate drink?
Oh, good question. Yes. So who wants to guess how much carbohydrate is in one bottle of super malt?
Well, for starters, someone is asking because he probably thinks there isn't. So that's one option. Yeah. One of the answers is 0.
0. Yeah. Any other guesses? Any other guesses?
Anyone wants to try?
Don't be shy. don't be shy.
How much carbs do we have in super malt? Oh, it could be quiet because people just don't know.
Oh, okay.
No.
Josephine is coming with 100.
100, okay.
Okay, not bad, not bad. So yeah, so it's slightly lower than 100, but it is quite high. Ruth has come in with about 20 grams of carbohydrate. So yeah, so actually it's sliding in the middle of those two somewhere. Sliding in the middle of those two. So actually, Francis has hit the nail on the head. There is 50 grams of carbohydrate inside of a super malt bottle. So if I was to put that in real money and give you a comparative analysis, that's the same as having 5 tablespoons of jollof rice on your plate. And if you were to have 5 tablespoons of jollof rice, your body would take time. It would take maybe a good 2 to 3 hours, actually, maybe even a bit longer, to digest it, break it down, and give you the carbohydrate content from it. Whereas if you drink that super malt, your body is going to absorb all 50 grams of that carbohydrate within 30 minutes of it entering your bloodstream, of it entering your gut from your small intestine straight to your bloodstream. So you absorb it very quickly. And if it's not necessarily being used, then it gets stored, and that's how people gain weight. On the other side of things, yeah, we're looking at sort of double carbing. What we advise people to do is keep foods as simple as possible, and try to, if you're following a low carb diet and you're actually trying to lose weight, stick to 1 carb on the plate at a time. So a good example of that is thinking of where your carbs may be. So I tell people that, you know, plantain is a carb, rice is a carb. On this side, I've got some rice and peas here. So we've got the carb element there with the rice, and then we have some rotis on this side here, which are also carb. So, you know, both of these dishes will easily be providing between 90 to 100 grams of carbohydrate, you know, on the plate.
Listen to the sentence, then spell the word.
Listen to the sentence, then spell.
Please, are we able to mute ourselves if we are not speaking, please?
Oh, sorry, I thought that was a question. That's why I stopped.
No, I think
Okay.
it's just someone's trying to find the person struggling here. Can we all put our speakers on mute, please? Apologies. Yeah.
Oh, it's no problem. It's
Yeah.
no problem. So yes, so definitely avoiding double carbing. You know, if you have rice on your plate, you don't want to put plantain on as well. You know, that's when you just put some chicken, you just put some stew there, and you bulk out the plate with veg so that the food is even more filling, because that's actually going to move us on to the next area, which is restricting high glycemic index foods. So what glycemic index is basically how quickly foods are broken down. So I have an image to show you guys as well. So obviously those foods, they're basically foods that break down very, very quickly. And because they break down quickly, they also leave you very, very, very hungry, especially if you have them in quite small portions, only because they're in and out of your system. So white bread is a very, very good example of that. And yes, all your liquid carbohydrates, you know, so I've listed up here, they also get in and out of your system. So this is what they look like. So if you were to have, let's just say that supermalt, it's going to cause your blood sugars to come up. They won't rise out of range if you don't have diabetes, but it will cause a spike in your blood sugar levels. And when that happens, then your body's going to produce loads of extra insulin to try and counteract that spike, causing your blood sugars to also drop very, very quickly. So after 30 minutes, it's going to drop very quickly. So not only will you be hungry, but you also be tired. So you want to aim to have more lower glycemic index African and Caribbean foods in your diet. That will give you a little more of a spike that looks like this. So all this is, you know, if you've had a low glycemic index food that breaks down very, very slowly, it means that over a 4 to 5 hour period, this food is still digesting, meaning that you're full during that time. So you don't necessarily need to eat. And the beauty of the African and Caribbean diet is that we have a lot of medium to low glycemic index foods, a lot. In fact, all of our staples are low glycemic index carbohydrates. So plantain, whether it's ripe or unripe, is actually a low glycemic index food. Yam is another one. Corn is another one. I must make a proviso with corn though. So if you are making fufu from plantain flour or maize, then what you have done is you've increased the glycemic index. So you've basically made that food very, very, very easy to digest. So it means that in small quantities of fufu, you could actually be having a lot of carbohydrate. So for most people, if you're having fufu that is, let's just say it's 2 fist sizes. So if you put 2 of your fists together and made 2 fists out of them, that much fufu, which is, I would say, the standard portion for the average man in Ghana, that portion on its own contains about 110 grams of carbohydrate, which is a lot in one meal. Is actually a lot to eat. So it just means that you have less of a quota of how much extra carbohydrate you can get in your diet if you're trying to manage your weight, let's just say. Another sort of debate that I tend to have with people is, especially my uncles in Ghana who will have fufu at the very start of the day. They may go out to work, and then maybe they'll eat again at the end of the day, but they've been able to keep a good figure. The difference between sort of myself and them is I wouldn't be able to eat that only because I'm not doing the work that they're doing. So they'd be doing very, very physical sort of jobs and be getting a lot of work in, really, really training their muscles as they're also doing the work. So they're actively burning all the time. Whereas I'm sitting at a desk most of the day speaking to people. So I couldn't eat that. I need a lower carbohydrate diet than they do. So we've got other options here. You know, you've got kidney beans, black-eyed beans, millet, which is like a protein grain. You've got basmati rice, which is a low GI food. You've got brown rice there, which has an even lower GI than basmati rice. And then you've got whole grain flour if you're making sort of rotis and wraps and things like that. So I'm going to give you a quick low carbohydrate diet example for the Caribbean diet. So This person here has basically started their day with about 30 grams of oats. They've made it up with maybe 100 or 200 mils of soya milk, and they've cooked them up, added some cinnamon to them. They've put a handful of blueberries in there. They've had a boiled egg on the side, and that whole breakfast has provided less than 30 grams of carbohydrate, and it will keep them sustained. If they've had that first thing in the morning, that's going to keep them sustained. Say you've had it at 8 a.m. in the morning, by 11 a.m., you're now starting to feel ready for, let's just say, a snack to keep you going. Hibbah, you have a question?
I do. How did you know that? I unmuted, yeah?
Yes, I was watching you.
Right. First of all, we can't see you. I'm not too sure why.
Oh, do you know what it is? I stopped my video so that
yes. We want to see you. A lot of the times people they're not able to picture exactly what the 30 grams look like.
Yes.
So yes, you're saying 30 grams of oats. Three tablespoons dry oats before it's cooked.
Before it's cooked, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So about 3 tablespoons of dry oats just before it's cooked. Once it's cooked up in a bit of milk or a bit of water, then you've got yourself a nice, decent starting portion. And because obviously people are used to more, what you do on the side is you have a protein portion, because the protein is fairly low in calories.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a long time to digest, Hibbah. So it just means that you've got a good 3 hours before you need anything else.
You get hungry again.
Indeed. Because that's what you're trying to do. When people are following a lower carbohydrate diet and we're telling them to reduce their carb, we actually do that by increasing the amount of meals they have and sliding in snacks that people can have between meals. And the snacks that we tell people to go for are things like a portion of fruit between meals, only because fruit is, once again, has a low glycemic index, high in fiber, is giving you vitamins and minerals, and is actually, providing you with other healing benefits, like, reducing inflammation in your body, supporting vision, all sorts of things. There are so many beautiful things about sort of fruit, even no carb snacks. So yes, so this person here, and what I'll do is I'll put my email in the chat. So if people actually want my recipes, so my low carb recipes for this, I can send them on. I'd be more than happy to send them on. So I've actually got this particular meal plan with these three recipes. I'll send them on.
Thank you.
So can make them.
Yes, and there's a question about the slides. So all slides are sent to Khan. So I'm going to put I don't know if Sandra is on there. If you can just put or praise the email address that people should email to be able to get access to the slides. So all our sessions have the slides sent to Khan. So please do contact Khan on health@khan.org. We'll leave that in the chat so others can see it, and then you can have access to the slides.
Yes. Oh, very good, very good. So I'll make sure that I send those on. And now we're looking at, this individual's evening meal. So as you can see in their evening meal, they've had some jerk chicken, they've had rice and peas with some salad on the side. And what they've done is they've actually made the salad the main part of the dish. They'll have the rice and peas there, and there'll be about 4 to 5 tablespoons of cooked rice on the plate. And that'll be about 150 grams in weight. And that's providing less than 50 grams in carbohydrate. So it just means that this person is actually having, about 130 grams of carbohydrate for the whole day. Well, I've actually sort of calculated that wrong. And if they were to have 1 or 2 portions of fruit between meals, then actually, it would push up their total carbohydrate intake, but it's still considered low by national average standards. And if they were doing it with no carb snacks, so things like, like peppers with hummus and things like that between meals, or a handful of nuts, once again, these are no carb snacks that they can have to keep them full, just between meals. And it's very important that with your drinks, you're basing your drinks around water, you're doing sugar-free squash, you're doing tea or coffee with no to limited sugar as much as possible, because you just don't want to add any extra calories to those dishes. I can see that someone put up a question about, do they put carbohydrate information on the bottles? yes, they do put carbohydrate information on most packaged goods. So even Supermalt has it as well. So they like to keep that one nice and quiet, you know, so people don't realize actually how nutritious a bottle of Supermalt actually is. It actually is. It's basically the same as having this portion of jerk rice, chicken, peas, and salad, essentially. So that's basically what that is compared to. Now I'll move on to the West African low carb example. So this person has had one boiled plantain, you know, in the morning, and what they've done is they've had it with an egg sauce. So, you know, it's like 2 seasoned eggs, they've put bell pepper, they've put onions in there, they've cooked it with very, very little oil, and it's got a higher carbohydrate higher carbohydrate intake than the than the cinnamon oats. But that's because plantain itself actually is the volume of carbohydrate in one plantain is quite high, even though it has a fairly low glycemic index. I know for a lot of people, just having one plantain is unspeakable. But when you're following a low carb diet, it's a practice that you want to get used to so that you can really still enjoy your cultural foods. And then, you know, for lunch, this person has had some moi moi, or as people in Sierra Leone call it, olele, and they've had it with some sauteed peppers and a bit of mackerel. Once again, I'll send you the recipe so you can see what volumes that you know these come in and what they look like. And one serving of this, you know, because the moi moi is made primarily with beans, is providing less than 20 grams of carbohydrate. So they've had let's just say they've hit the cusp on how much carbohydrate they can take at breakfast, but actually at lunchtime they've had a lower carbohydrate lunch, but they've got their sauteed peppers in there, they've got their mackerel, it's high in protein, it's going to keep them full for long. And then at their evening meal, they've had some jollof rice with spinach and a skinless chicken drumstick. And they've put, once again, about 5 tablespoons of rice on the plate, and that's provided about 50 grams of carbohydrate on that plate for them. They're also following the tip, which is keep your liquids carbohydrate free. So no fruit juices, smoothies, no sugary coffees, things like that. This person has had, you know, about 120 grams of carbohydrate, you know, if they're not having any snacks. And if they're to have maybe a portion of fruit, you know, sort of between meals, then, you know, or between breakfast and lunch, between lunch and their evening meal, one before bed, then they'd be getting up to 180 grams of carbohydrate. So what you're really doing is you're basing your meals around very low glycemic index carbohydrates, a lot of veg, and then you're adding additional sort of protein there to keep you full for long, because being on a low carbohydrate diet just means that you could be exposed to a little bit more hunger, especially if you were used to a very high carbohydrate diet. So yep, I'll sort of, let me share that again, and I can come round for Q&A. So I'll just stop my video here, and I'm available for some questions before Orlando comes in.
Okay, I didn't want you to end, but
Let me come up again.
Okay. Thank you, Alistair.
For Q&A.
Yeah. Okay. This technology is new to me. How do I add myself to you? Let me see if I can do that. But anyway, whilst I'm trying
what I can do is let me even come out of this so we can have this.
Yes. Because I want us to have a discussion now.
Yes. Let me come back. It just doesn't allow me to put up.
Yes, I see a hand up. Just going to unmute you whilst I try to.
Okay.
Yes, please. I think, Esther, I have unmuted you. Are you able to speak now? Not yet. Grace, if you're on there, can you try unmuting her so she can ask her question?
Okay, I've tried.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, good evening. My name, I just want to double check that I am type 2 diabetic.
Okay.
and I am trying to reverse my diabetes.
Good plan. How long have
Yeah.
you had type 2 diabetes for?
5-6 years.
Okay, so you are just at that point. Once you get to the 6-year point, after that, remission isn't as easy to get to, or may not be possible. But just before, you've just about made it. So this is the time to do it.
All right. Is there any way you can help me to do that?
Yeah, so you're more than welcome. Like I said, I put my email up. You know, you're more than welcome to get in contact so we can work closely with you. That's not a problem at all. So pop me an email, and I can work with you on that, no problem. And similarly, in the area where you live, whereabouts are you based, Esther?
Southeast
London.
Southeast London. Oh, okay. If you're based in Southeast London, my advice is let your GP know that there are plenty of commissioned remission sort of work groups and services where they are actively trying to get people into remission.
All right.
What I can tell you, to give you a bit of an overview, is that what they do is they actually put you on soups and shakes. So it's a very, very restrictive diet, soups and shakes that hold you at about 80 to 100 grams of carbohydrate per day. And they do that for 3 months. They do that for 3 months so that the fat around your liver can start to recede, so that your blood sugars can start to come down, and then they reintroduce food to you bit by bit. So you'll be working closely with the dietitian at that, or you'll be working closely with the dietitian the whole time. But Southeast London, they have that. Or I'll move on to the next person. So yeah.
Is that doing?
Sorry?
Is that a new thing they've started?
No, they've been doing the remission trials since 2014. And they're just adding more and more steam to it, because now the data is showing us that 9 out of 10 people are able to go into remission within the first 2 years of diagnosis of diabetes. And once 6 years is the maximum point where we're seeing that 9 out of 10 people still. After that, it does tend to slow down. And even if you can't get into remission, if you can come off tablets and lose weight, you've added an extra 15 years to your life, just like that.
That's it. I'm just struggling. I'm just so grateful with your presentation. Because I'm struggling to get the carbs as an African Ghanaian woman, struggling with the carbs, low carbs food. I am struggling a bit. So I'll be happy if I have your email so that I can get your recipe to help me as well.
Absolutely.
So much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Esther. So before I call on Janet, I think, Alistair, you need to read this. Well done. I'm very impressed with your presentation. Very educative. I think we will need you again in a couple of months for a refresher training. Alistair is good like that. Anytime he comes around, he wows the audience. So Alistair, this is a call for you to come back again very soon.
I will come.
Janet, let's have you.
So I've got a question, because in your presentation you said that we should avoid double carbohydrates in our food. What would be your advice, for instance, for some Ghanaian foods like beans and gari? It's almost all the time goes with gari, and then with plantain. And I know some people also like to enjoy their rice or jollof rice with some plantain. What would be the advice there, please?
It's all about what you want to achieve. It's all about what
Alistair, sorry, let me come in here. It's not, with that dish, it's not even double carb. It's yesterday I was talking to someone on phone. Sometimes it's triple or quadruple. It's gari, beans, plantain, you know, it just, then there's wache. Wache is rice and beans. Then people add sometimes macaroni, pasta, and then gari. So that's four carbs. Now, let me leave you to answer.
Yeah. Do you know, my confession, my favorite Ghanaian dish of all time is red. So give me beans, give me plantain. I will come to your house anytime. It's my favorite dish of all time. Yes, if you have type 2 diabetes, having that gari photo inside and then having plantain on top, could push you over the top. It doesn't mean you can't have it. It just means your portion is going to be very, very small. And all you need to do, if you want to enjoy that dish, is you have to really bulk out the plate with vegetables. That's what you have to do. Nice low calorie veg. So it's not about sauteing veg and then pouring a lot of oil on top to fry it and say, yes, I've had my vegetables. You want to use very tiny oil, maybe a tablespoon maximum over the veg, and just put it there as part of the dish. So if that's what you're trying to achieve, it's the same for weight loss, because the hardest thing about our cultural diet is because of how carb heavy our diet is. When you're trying to lose weight, you just have to do a reshift of your mindset around how you eat your foods. That is all, if you're trying to achieve the results. Otherwise, you won't get the results. So I always tell people, do it that way. And then, when you've actually lost some weight and your blood sugars are a bit better, you'll be surprised that your body might be able to give you a bit more of an allowance. But do the hard work first, and you'll get what you're looking for.
Someone once told me, but how on earth am I going to eat curry and beans with salad? Said, that's, our ancestors are going to be sad because that's not what they left us.
That's true.
No, but I like the point you make, that we're not saying you don't have your curry and beans. It's just how much are you having?
Yes.
And I think another thing I need you to emphasize on is just what you said. But again, people worry they're not going to get full. So again, you've said this, but I want you to reiterate it. How do we go on low carb African and Caribbean foods and still get full?
Yes.
I cut down my jollof. You're telling us 3, 4, 5 tablespoons of rice. People have the ladle spoon, like 4, 5. That's 5 times what you are recommending.
Yes.
So if people have to cut down on what they are eating, how can they remain full?
Very good question, Hibbah. The answer is increase your veg, but also increase your low-fat protein. So one thing I know about the West African diet, especially the Ghanaian diet, is we love eggs. We love eggs. Having 1 or 2 boiled eggs, alongside your dish to help to bulk out the plate is not a bad thing to do. But you really want to get used to more vegetables, more vegetables, because vegetables break down very, very slowly. They keep you very, very, very full. I always tell people, don't knock it until you've actually tried it for yourself. So please try it for yourself and see if it doesn't make a difference. Of course, it's not the same satisfaction level as maybe eating a very full plate of rice that will put you to sleep. But the health benefits you get from feeling full without feeling comatose is something you should all fight for. And it's also it's like a shifting of the culture, because when my uncles back in Ghana were eating that way, they were Gar men, so they would go on boats and they would go fishing all day. So the amount of calories that they require to do fishing, if anyone's ever tried fishing before, I promise you, it is one of the most difficult things you will ever do. Or like my father's people in Akropong, they're farmers. So if you've been anyone who's ever farmed or been on the farm before, the kind of energy you require to lift, to chop, and to farm is a lot. So you do need that energy. But in the UK here, it's not required. That we don't have those kinds of jobs. We don't have those kinds of responsibilities. Most of us are working sedentary jobs, and you'll be surprised. You can get used to eating less carbohydrate. So fight.
Thank you. Thank you, Alistair. Thank you. You make a very important point, because I was going to ask you, I get that question sometimes from people. You're telling us to cut down on our foods. This is how our fathers and grandfathers ate. And yet they didn't even have to struggle with these diseases. And that's exactly one of the reasons you have clearly articulated. The kind of jobs they were doing. It's not, now look, we have technology. If you don't go out of your house, you can get something to watch all day and not even get 100 steps, Exactly. So there's something called a nutrition transition. Our diets have changed. Physical activity levels have changed. We are all engaged in sedentary lifestyle. We don't do any hard work. So we can't be comparing the way we eat now to the way our fathers ate back in the days when they had no blenders, they had no machines to do washing machines, everything was manual labor. Now we have all these things to do stuff for us. So we just have to change. we can't continue doing things like the way we met it. No, exactly. We have to change. Exactly. Thank you. Let me get Kabirat to come in. Yes, Kabirat.
Yes, Kabirat.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the lecture. It was really very interesting. But my question is, with the eating and feeling full, like eating rice and beans, you know, and like the double carbohydrates, is it advisable to eat it like that, full to satisfaction, and skip lunch or skip the next meal? Advisable?
Yes. Do you know, that's a very good question. I get asked this a lot about skipping meals to lower carbohydrate intake. And what I tell people is avoid skipping meals if you can. Only because if anyone who skips lunch is very hungry at dinner time, and if they're not very hungry at dinner time, when they finish their evening meal, then they're hungry after it, and then they end up going for seconds. So when you're on a lower carbohydrate diet, you want to be actually having more meals. And as you can see when I'll show you the example meal plan for that one day, that person was having 150 grams of carb, but was having little bits of carb at each of those timestamps of the day. And they were allowing space for snacks that they could have between meals as well to keep them going. You'll be surprised what you can get used to. And I have people that I was seeing in clinic, especially when I was working in Northwest London, who were able to go into remission of their diabetes. And, you know, these were Ghanaians, these were Nigerians. I was speaking to people from the Caribbean as well. I had a gentleman from Trinidad and Tobago. He changed his diet around so much because with the diet in Trinidad and Tobago, it's actually based a lot on lentils and vegetables anyway. So we just told him to just do a slight adjustment with his oils, reduce his carbohydrate, increase the veg, increase protein with his meals. And he went into remission. It took him 6 months to go into remission. He'd been diagnosed for 3 years, actually, and he went into remission. So all of these things are possible. And the question I ask everyone is, how far are you willing to go for your future health, for what you want to achieve? You know, you don't want it to be a case where you have these diseases that are niggling you in the background that maybe they're not manifesting now, but they become worse later, you know, when you're in your 60s or in your 70s. Or would you rather that you're in your 60s and 70s, you're still fit, you're still strong, you can go for your walks, and you're not worried about complications? This is what we're really trying to avoid with the Healthy Hearts program. So Hibbah has stacked all of us speakers to come together to tell people that there is another way, you know, that is the other way. Let's do that so we can all live long and live strong, and so that there can be ongoing generational wealth and all sorts of things for our communities.
Thank you, Alistair. That is deep. And all we have to do is just a little adjustment, you know, because, you know, we are against following fad diets. That's why you started by saying going on that very low carb diet is just not sustainable. So we are not, and all those people who just take out the carbohydrates from there totally, again, is not what we recommend here.
Exactly.
Have some carbs, just reduce your portion sizes, increase your vegetables, increase your healthy proteins. Yes, there was one point I wanted to make, and we still have about 8 to 10 minutes. So if people have some more questions, they can still ask. I also get people telling me they don't like salads. I get it a lot. Do you have any comments for people who don't?
I do, Hibbah. I do. I always tell people to start with the veg they like first, and put that on all your main meals of the day. So, you know, if carrots is what you like, go for carrots. Carrots actually have very, very little carbohydrate content. If you like peppers, like red pepper, green pepper, things like that, put that with your evening meals, and start building it up. And when you find that you're able to have energy for other things, then you'll want to add more veg to make it a bit more exciting for yourself. Lastly, though, when you're adding veg, don't fall into the trap of adding lots of extra oils to the veg. Don't add lots of extra salad cream or mayonnaise, because fat is also something we need to be aware of. So I did a talk some time ago about cholesterol and diet and being careful with, salad cream and things like that. You all you have to do is just lightly season things, not too much salt, just lightly season things, and that's a really good way of just getting that extra veg in. Sweet corn is another thing if you like it. Peas if you like them. I've seen people who cook their jollof and they put peas or they put mixed veg inside there. That's a very Ghanaian thing to do. So if there's any Nigerians watching, I can understand if you're a bit opposed to doing that kind of thing. But it's a really good way of actually then, if there's a lot of veg inside the jollof, a lot of mixed veg inside the jollof, when that goes on the plate, you can get away with actually having a little bit more on your plate because there's a lot more veg in there. So you can manipulate these things. You just have to play the system and start getting used to the taste of it. Because our brains, we have neurons in our brain. It takes them 21 days to actually form a new connection. That's us building a new habit. That's the way our brains have been designed. If you can survive 21 days, then it becomes your new habit. And if you can take that 21 days to 90 days, then you've locked it in. It now becomes a part of your lifestyle. All of us are doing what we're doing because we've locked in certain habits that we feel we can't break from. But it's just understanding our capabilities and, not limiting what you can do. Don't limit what you can do. Yeah.
Thank you, Alistair. Yes.
I'm just seeing a question from.
Yeah. And I knew that was going to come when we started talking about having regular meals. So please look at it and tell us what you think.
Yes. So with regards to fasting and weight loss, a lot of people, the big buzz is intermittent fasting. So the premise of intermittent fasting is getting a 16-hour fast, and ideally doing that from your evening meal all the way through to maybe when you have your breakfast. But that kind of process works well if your evening meal is, let's just say, at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, and then you're probably not going to have any breakfast until 10 a.m. the next morning. Then you've got that whole period fasted, but that's not feasible for everybody, so not everybody is capable of doing that. Some people find it works great for them, and some people actually will maybe have a very low to no carbohydrate lunch, as part of their fasting. Some people may skip lunch, but what I found is, as Hibbah was saying, you have to do things that are sustainable for you. You need to be able to eat in a way that in 30 years from now, when we're speaking to you, you're telling us that you're eating the same and that you're healthy and you're fine. Intermittent fasting has shown very good evidence of being effective for about 6 to 9 months. After that period, the evidence is very limited to actually counterproductive with regards to its benefits on your cardiovascular system, your diabetes control, obesity, things like that, because it's so hard to maintain. So fast for a short period of time if you think it will be beneficial, but I strongly recommend as a dietitian, and Hibbah strongly agrees with me on this as well.
I do.
Have your regular meals. Eat the foods you enjoy. Have your regular meals. Do it in a healthier way so you can enjoy your life and have the energy to exercise, because it's exercise that's really going to boost your metabolism of carbohydrates. How well you digest them and absorb them and use them for energy.
A lot of people would tell you that they can't take breakfast. And we did an intervention some time ago here through the Healthy Hearts program. And through that intervention, lots more people, all those people who were saying they couldn't take breakfast, were able to start taking breakfast. It's always, it's just, people's state of mind. It's just, a way that you have lived your life. So it's become a habit. If you just shift that mentality slightly, tell yourself the importance of taking breakfast, and you start doing it, you'd realize that you will be able to do it. It's just habits. You've done things over and over for so many years, so you just feel like, oh, I can't do that. But there were people who joined us on that community intervention we did, who came back to say, I can eat breakfast after all. Some people complained that it made them, a bit sluggish. It was how much they were consuming. So yes, as much as we are saying eat breakfast, we've shown you what a healthy plate looks like, how just a small portion of carbohydrates, proteins, vegetables, that wouldn't keep you, that would make you sleep. It's how much you consume.
Yes.
You know, so it's doable. I'm just saying this because I know some people will swear that I cannot have breakfast.
But Hibbah,
all those,
you've demonstrated success. You demonstrated success, you know, with the Healthy Hearts program, being able to do that with the community intervention. And we know that, like, biologically as well, if you have had a very, very large plate of carbohydrates, so the average Ghanaian plate of food actually contains about 200 grams of carbohydrate on the plate. So remember I was saying that our daily requirement was about 210 for someone who's very physically active. So that plate of food that you've had in the evening, let's just say you've even had it slightly later, 8 p.m., that food will still be digesting in your stomach, or not your stomach, your small intestine, maybe about 12 to 14 hours later. So I can understand why people don't want to have breakfast in the morning, because actually you're still digesting food at that stage in time. But when you have a smaller carbohydrate evening meal, oh, you'll be hungry at breakfast. You'll want it. You'll definitely want it. So you know, go for low carb. It's gonna save your life. And back to you, Hibbah.
Yes. Where is my Zoom? I just went to see something. I think, don't know if you want to take the last question.
Oh, from Kabira. Yes, definitely. So yeah, Kabira, you asked a very good question about oils. I know I've been focusing on carbohydrates, but I can answer you this one very quickly. For every tablespoon of oil you add to your food, you're adding an extra 100 calories. And remember how I said that when you've had your maintenance calories for the day, if you're having an extra 100 calories on top, that's enough for you to gain 4 kilograms by the end of the year, you know, without doing anything different. So to be fair, if you're using olive oil, if you're using canola oil or soya oil or vegetable oil, absolutely fine, because those are the healthier oils that your body can process really well, but you must still use very small portions of them. So you want to limit as much as possible. So what I tell people to do first is, when you're cooking with oil, just measure what you're doing now first to see where you are. And once you can quantify how much you're having, your next step is to, let's see if your food will taste the same if you cut it in half. And let's see the impact on your weight. Let's see the impact on your metabolic markers as well, like your blood sugars, your blood fats, things like that. Because a lot of us are walking around with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And actually, just by that simple change, you could actually improve your cholesterol significantly.
You might see a poll on your screen. Please, we would like your feedback. So yes, there is a recording. There's always a recording. It's on YouTube. This is live on YouTube. So if you go to the CAN homepage, you would have access to this recording and all of the previous sessions we've done, as well as the Facebook homepage, Joseph. Alistair.
Oh, I was going to say that
yes.
I really liked Roxanne's feedback, you know, because Roxanne is, you know, that she's a caterer.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like the education on different generations and about shifting habits. And actually, Roxanne, you know, being a caterer, you are one of the key staples of our community, you know. So when there's, you know, parties, weddings, things like that, you know, everyone is going to want their traditional foods. And actually, if people can get used to eating their traditional foods in a healthier way, then we shift the culture, you know, one wedding at a time. You know, so that is the aim. You know, that is the aim. So, Roxanne, thank you for all you do. Oh, Roxanne's in Canada. Nice.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne, for joining our sessions. I hope you share the link with other people to join. We're going, Healthy Heart is going global now. It's not just the UK. Thank you all. Alistair, final words.
Yeah. So, you know, my final words are, I'm just echoing what Hibbah was saying, you know, about the psychology of it all. It is a very possible thing to do. If for some people, you may need to just start one meal at a time, you know, eating one low carb meal at a time until you can get to 3 low carb meals to just improve your health. It's very important to track your weight, you know, so if you have a scale at home, stand on the scale, look at your weight once a week, and actually quantify the kind of impact, you know, following a lower carbohydrate diet and changing to eating more veg, quantify what impact it's having on you, and let us know what next time you're on a Healthy Hearts program, that hey, I'm losing weight, or I did my blood report and actually my bloods came back a lot better because of the advice that I've been given in this short amount of time. Or, all of these things are very, very, very important, because actually if we can empower ourselves with our own foods, some of us have been able to come off medications. Some of us have been able to not even need to take them at all. That is the whole point of community intervention. So that's what we're working towards. So it's always an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak amongst my own people about evidence and information that that they should know. And I just want to say a massive thank you to Khan, and a massive thank you to Dr. Hibbah for bringing me back time and time again to do something I absolutely love being able to do. So send me an email. I have some recipes for you guys, the Caribbean ones or the African ones. You can just send an email and just say to my email, which is kumidietitians@gmail.com. Just send that email. Just say, I'd like the African one-day meal plan. I'll send it your way, free of charge. Take a look through, look at the recipe, see if it works for you, and feedback to me via email as well.
Thank you so much, Alistair. It's always a pleasure to have you here as well. So I'm sure we'll be having you again next month for another insightful session. Final words from me, because you talked about people trying things one at a time. Just a reminder, don't underestimate the value of small changes. Something I like to say all the time. The effects multiply as you repeat them. Okay, you might not see immediate results. And that's why, we sometimes people give up, because someone will say, I've done this for a while and I'm not seeing anything. But do believe us when we say it does have an impact later on. Even if it's not immediate, you might see the results 5-10 years down the line. Eat unhealthy and you will not see the problem immediately. That's why some people just get stuck into unhealthy behaviors. It is a replication of those choices that compound to a problem. So in the same way, make these small changes and the replication will result in good health and a happy life for all of us. So on this note, I'd like to say a big thank you to Alistair. Some more positive comments, really, really nice comments in the chat box, but we'll have to bring our session to an end. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We hope to see you next week. We have a session on sickle cell and nutrition. We do know how much sickle cell is a problem within our community. So I hope you can join us at the same time, 6:30, for another insightful session. Thank you all. Please don't go yet. We still have Orlando, who is already on here, ready to take us to our next session. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Hibbah, can you just highlight? There we go. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to the exercise part of today's session. First of all, a big thank you to Alistair, as always. Great seminar, great insightful seminar. And thank you, Dr. Hibbah, for facilitating that. I hope everybody stays on. Tonight, we have an ab circuit planned. So we're hitting the ab, the core. We're going to work really hard, get a nice sweat on. For tonight's session, you'll just need a mat, a space, and plenty of water as per usual. All right, so let's get straight into it with a warm-up. I'm just going to start with some side steps, really opening up the stomach, opening up the chest. I'm going to go for 30 seconds, okay? So let me turn my music up. There we go. Both sides, 30 seconds. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Five, 2, Whoa, okay, next one. We're gonna squat down. I'm gonna reach up, nice and seated. Let's go. Okay, next one. Right side, switch round. Bow, go. The legs facing forward. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's breath for 10 seconds. Shake it up. Okay, we're going straight back into our side steps in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Right above the head. 3, 2, 1. Okay, next one. Leg up, your cow. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Back to your torso twist. Three, 2, 1, and that's time, people. Well done. Take a quick shake off, have a few sips of water, and then we're going to go into our circuit number 1. Well done. Ten seconds, people. Okay, my people, it's circuit time now. All right, so we've got 2 circuits to get through, and each circuit contains 4 exercises. Okay, each move we're going to do, we're going to work for 60 seconds. And if you remember the RP scale I explained last week, we could do between 1 and 10, with 1 being you're on the couch watching TV, 10 being the hardest you've ever worked. We're going to try and keep it around a 6 or a 7. So remember, if you want to go a little bit harder and take it up to 8, 9 and increase that work rate, then feel free to do so. And or if you want to take it back a little bit and work at a 4 or 5, then feel free to do so too. All right, so first 2 moves coming your way. First move, we've got torso twist with a side bend. We're going to be here, twist to the side, and we're going to drop down. Okay, really working the abs, side of the abs there. Back to the middle. We're going to work one side at a time. So we're here, twist, down, up with the stomach, back to the middle, down, up, and we're going to work 30 seconds each side. From there, we've got overhead. We're going to be here. We've got side bends, like so. Again, we're going to work one side at a time. So we're here, we're looking at our hand, we're bending, and we're bringing it back up with the abs. So we're here, tense those abs. Oh, contract back up. Okay, so we're going from torso twist, the bend, stay on one side, 30 seconds a piece, and then we're going to go overhead, side bends, stay on one side. All right, people, the first two moves coming your way. Let's go now. Let's go. So we'll start with the torso twist in 3, 2, 1, go. You not going, people. 3, 2, 1, shake shot.
That's a sign, yes. This thing I done. Why you are there? It doesn't
Not
matter.
going, people. 3, 2, 1, and rest right there. 20 seconds of rest. Get those deep breaths in. Ten seconds. Three, 2, 1. Let's go. Overhead, side bend. Let's go. You guys know it, people. Two, 1, kick shot. Now go ahead, people. 10 seconds. 2, 1. And rest, people. 20 seconds. Okay, while you're resting, moves 3 and 4. Okay, so first one, we got knee raises. What we're gonna do, hands by the side, raise the knees, really squeeze those out for 2 seconds, and then release. So we're here, 1, 2, release. 1, 2, release. Okay, 60 seconds. From there, we've got diagonal crunches. So we're gonna be here, sorry, side crunches. So we're here, stay on one side, 30 seconds, and then we're gonna go 30 seconds there. Okay, first move up, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then that side crunches. Let's get ready, people. 3, 2, 1, go. That one, people. 10 seconds. 1. Rest for 20 seconds. Time. Just coming up. 5 seconds. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Go. Step to the side. 10 seconds. Change sides. Keep it going. Keep it going. 2, 1. Change side. 10 seconds. 2, 1. And rest there. Well done. 1 down. 1 to go. Right, so take a 60-second rest. Straight back to circuit number 2. Ten seconds. Okay, listening people, now circuit number 2 coming your way. All right, so first 2 moves. First one, we've got around the world, okay? So we're going to pretend that we've got a dumbbell, kettlebell, or if you actually have one of those items, bring it in now if you want to real quick. So we're going to be here, keeping our stomach nice and tense. We're just going to go around the world, okay? Go around the stomach, keeping it nice and tense. We're breathing still, but the abs are nice and tight and solid. So we're here around the world. And in 30 seconds, we'll change direction. So we'll go this way. Okay, from there, we're going to hit the mat. We'll go full sit-ups from here. Down, we're up, and we're reaching. Down, hands behind, up, and reach. Okay, so from around the world to full sit-ups on the mat. Okay, let's go, people. First 2 moves, let's go. Yeah, let's go. Get ready. Around the world in 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Change direction. Keep that going, people. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 20 seconds rest. Let the stomach reset. Going down on the mat next. 4 sit-ups with stretching back and stretching up. Get ready. Three, 2, 1, go. You got going. Halfway. You got going, people. Keep working hard. Let's go. 20 seconds to go. Ten seconds. Two, 1. Rest there. Rest there. Okay, last 2 moves coming your way now. Okay, so we've got leg raises. Okay, but we're going to work all 3 angles. So we're going to go from the left, up, middle, up, right, up, then back to the left. If you can, let me show you how it works. So from here, 1, 2, 3. And back to the left. 1, 2, 3. Okay. If that's too much, then just work on forward, so back and forth, right from the middle. Okay, from there we've got crunches. So we've got our hands behind the head or just in front, and we're going to go elbows to knees, like so. So we're here, we're here. That. Correct. Okay, there. All right, so leg raises, some crunches. Okay, let's go, people. Last 2 moves. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Let's go. Now going, people. Let's go. 20 seconds to go. Ten seconds. Two, 1. Take your 20 seconds of rest. Last move, we have crunches. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Crunches. Let's go, people. 20 seconds. . Last 15 seconds, people. Almost there. 10. 3, 2, 1. That's 9 people. Well done. Take 20 seconds, take on some water, and then we stretch off. Okay, people, join me back in the center. Let's stretch off. I'm going to start off by using our neck side to side like so. Nice and slow. Down now. Nice and gentle. Ear to shoulder. Okay, next one. Arms up, torso twist. Okay, reach up and try and touch the ceiling. Down by your side. Back up to the ceiling. Down by your side. Hands to the hips. Last one. Big rotations on the hips. Stretch that stomach out. Change direction. Front to back. Take it all off, my people. And now it's time. Well done, well done. And do we have Sam on for praise? Any of my colleagues on right now on the call? Sure, anyone's on.
I think it's just me.
Okay, no one on today.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you, Orlando, for today, and thanks to everyone that joined the section. See you same time next week, and have a great evening. Bye for now.